Hey there, friend. Wanted to share with you all some simple steps to handle conflict or hard conversations. Um, these are steps that I've used personally to provide clarity, to stand for results, to even stand for changes in a relationship or with something that I'm experiencing in with somebody else, or even in my own marriage. And so these steps are very applicable to marriage and how you interact with your partner. So if a hard conversation is needed, I hope that you will find these simple steps to be helpful for you and for them to call forth the results that you guys are fighting for and standing for in your marriage. So, step number one is be very, very clear on what is going on. Okay. So, what is the offense? What exactly is going, quote unquote, wrong? And by the way, if it wasn't wrong, what else is just as true? Okay. Because, and the reason why I ask that is because there's a reason why something is happening. All right. And if we go into it that they are being dumb or wrong or we're right and we're hell bent on our mission to make sure that they don't do this again, well, you're not going to have you're definitely going to have a hard conversation. You're going to have a bully too. So I would I would invite a spirit of openness to this conversation, starting with yourself. If you feel like there's a conflict and there's a conversation that needs to be had, be very specific about where the offense that you experienced and own that this is what you are experiencing in that language. So be very, very clear, be very, very specific in the example that you provide to your spouse with what is going on. So I heard you give a tone towards our child whenever they dropped the glass in the kitchen, whatever the example is. Be very, very specific. Okay. This is the moment, this is the time where I saw this. And I experienced that to be a very harsh tone with our 3-year-old or whatever. Okay. So I'm telling you what I'm making up. I'm telling you what I'm experiencing, and this is the specific example of that moment in time. So start with being very specific. Number three, how did I contribute to this reality? Okay, like I contributed to not saying something in the moment. Maybe I may have contributed by knowing that the kid needed help reaching the cup and I didn't do anything about it. I just let it happen. There is a contribution that you have in this situation, and it's okay to acknowledge it. In fact, it's necessary. So whenever both parties can actually own their contribution, it actually allows for healing and growth that actually can be realistic. So owning your contribution, just saying, like I said, I saw them reaching for it and I could have intervened, or, I didn't tell you in that moment that I experienced your tone to be harsh, or even offered to let me take care of it. Right. Not to save anybody, but simply like have the results that you wanted in that moment. Obviously there was a discrepancy. So what was that discrepancy, without judgment towards yourself, without shaming yourself, without condemning yourself, just simply saying, this is my feedback to myself. This is how I contributed to this situation right now. And then that will allow to, hey, so if this connection, if this continues to happen, so if you continue to raise your voice at a child, or you continue to be late, and coming home on time for dinner, or whatever the offense is, we're getting clear on, if this not corrected, then what will happen. So if this really continues, like, hey, if you still have a tone, and hey, if you still show up late, and this is something that's habitual and constant and always happening, like, what does our future hold? What does my future hold with you? And that's not just like start the threats of I'm leaving you and I'm out and all these things. No, it doesn't need to go 0 to 60. Just be honest, and I'm not going to try. I may wrestle with trusting you with the kids and disciplining, and I want to partner with you. I it could even scare the kids a little bit in how they experience you, or whatever the case may be. Like, am I willing to actually be honest of, like, hey, this is what the future holds if this continues? Okay. Like, if I keep doing what I did to contribute to this, and if you keep on showing up in this capacity, this is what the future will look like for both of us. It's not a blame game. It's simply a potential reality that could be before us that hopefully both can agree that they don't want. Um, And then the last thing is you coming to the table with your commitment. Hey, I'm committed to, if this happens again, or if you do show up late, like we'll change our rhythm so that dinner can be ready, so that whenever you in line with your work schedule, so that we can all have a meal as a family, right? Or maybe it's simply like, hey, I'm requesting that um, I'm going to check in on you and just shoot you a text in the middle of the day, because I feel like we don't really talk too much, throughout the week with our work schedules and with the kids' schedules or the workloads that we're carrying. I'm committed to simply uh, initiating a conversation with you once a day, or having a date night, whatever the case may be. If you can come to the table with a level of a stand, a commitment, a promise, you're inviting them into that process too, because you're ultimately responsible for yourself. You're not the one who's going to change other people. You can influence them, yes, but the influence is a gift whenever you can come to the table with that clarity, the example, your contribution, right? The reality of what's before you, and then the promise that you are standing for, to call forth new results, to have that intimacy, to have that integrity, to have that intimacy that you are fighting for. Because whenever you have that intimacy, that integrity, that intentionality, then you're able to live freely, which is a gift. So that's how we have hard conversations. And they may not be hard. It actually might be very easy, because you're clear, you're concise. There's no kind of beating around the bush. Sometimes we need to really start these conversations with, I need to have a hard conversation with you real quick before we move forward. Being a little abrupt is an okay thing, because people can tell whenever it's being rude or it's just being sincerely honest. Right? You kind of guns blazing, obviously, you'll probably get a gunfight of sorts. Coming to the table with a level of, I need to share with you what I'm experiencing to live in connection with you, is a vulnerable thing. Yeah. And is a beautiful thing, because it actually calls forth the intimacy that we're all longing to experience with one another. So let me know how you handle these hard conversations. How have you seen these steps work? If you've applied them, if one seems harder than another, let me know. Send me a message. Would love to be a resource in any capacity I can. There's so much more happening in all these steps. And so these steps are merely a rubric, not necessarily a must do. They're simply steps that I've used and I've seen other couples use to transform the dance in their marriage to have the results that they are fighting for. So thank you for joining me in this conversation. I hope it was helpful.